It's the Wednesday Wisdom Show, and you want to know, what is spiritual love? I think that maybe the most fascinating topic across the board to all humans, no matter where they exist, other than survival, once we have that covered, is love. We tie the value of our life very much to our experience, our access to the experience of love. We also feel that the solution to our problems lies in love. Songwriters say that. Philosophers also. Politicians say it. What do we mean when we say this? I'll tell you this now, that spiritual love does not exist in human nature at all. It's really opposite to our nature. But we need to know the difference between these two things. The human level of love, well, we know, any adult knows that it's not the Hollywood version of love. We know that love, as we experience it, that fills our heart and makes us see beauty and a changed world for a while, where we're floating on air. This is something that happens to us, but it doesn't necessarily last. And we try to prepare ourselves for the fact that this is so, to accommodate in our situations, but we're still being run, even though the quality of absolute beauty and springtime may leave depart from the setting of our marriage or relationships. We're still looking for the same quality, essential quality of human love that keeps us in it. We make compromises, but we're still trying to do the same thing when we do that. We are trying, within a certain level, to get what we need out of the relationship. To also give, but the reason that we're giving is to make sure that there is some kind of quality that's coming back to us. Now, I know that already you're saying, no, that's not true. I'm not like that in my relationship. But let's look at it a little more closely so that we can see the difference between these two levels. First of all, that sense of beauty that we have in relation to each other is triggered by a system that's owned by nature, not by us. If certain hormones are triggered, certain needs are triggered towards another, then they are important to us while that's happening. When they are no longer triggered by the functions of nature, we begin to lose that sensation, and they are no longer important to us in the same way. What do I mean by important to us? We're not relating to the other for the sake of the other. We are essentially relating to the other for the sake of personal fulfillment. This is true, actually, even in parent and child situations, even with a mother and a child. Now, a mother will give everything for that child, will take care of it while she's ill, while she herself, the mother, is ill, will sacrifice everything for the child. But in the end, when we look at what is happening, there is a fulfillment that is coming to the mother through this act. And this is love within human nature. Now, you must be saying to yourself, well, what do you want from me? I mean, how can you, first of all, I don't believe you. Secondly, what kind of a standard is this? Who can possibly act completely altruistically in every level of connection with other people? The fact is that spiritual love is actually against human nature. It's not made of the same thing that our natural love is made of. So we need to know the difference between the two. And many, many people feel and say that it is impossible to love another unless I can first love myself. But this is exactly the point. The reason that we don't love others is that we love ourselves to the exclusion of others. That's why we feel shy. That's why we feel inadequate. That's why we feel burdened by our self-criticism. What are those things? They are a love and protection of everything that has to do with me. I want to make certain that my feelings won't be hurt, that others will not look at me in such a way that I would begin to disrespect myself, that in some way I would feel inadequate, that I would be unprotected, that my ego would be laid out there and all of my faults would be evident to others. And I will not put myself in a place like that. Why? Because I love myself and am focused on myself to the exclusion of others. Think about it. It's this crippling, constant evaluation only of myself and my own condition. My thoughts can't move to others. I can't feel what they feel. We're unable to open our hearts and sense what's going on in the other and to think about what would be good for them, to sort of lose ourselves in the connection with others. It's not that I don't love myself. It's that I love myself to the exclusion of others. That, in a nutshell, is what the two-dimensional human nature, natural love is like. So all of this drama, pleasure, romance, and giving isn't spiritual. In fact, it isn't even love. It's just an attraction or a repulsion to something that is pleasurable, sweet, or something that is bitter. And we always go for what's sweet, and we run away from what's bitter. Because nature's running that level of our nature. So, if we're going to look to spiritual love to save us from the situation that we're in, I mean, look at America. Look at the condition of the world. Look where we are with nature. Look where we are with the economic system. How we're invested in claiming that the other is racist. All of these things that are rolling us towards terrible confrontations. If we all have in common the idea that love and connection is the answer, then what's the degree of love and what's the kind of connection that's actually going to do this for us? Love is a spiritual force that holds opposites together. It's a sovereign, primordial intention that stands above two things that are absolutely different and opposed to each other, and gives life to both of them and brings them to good. So if we want to understand how we can experience spiritual love, we need to understand, well, how does a human access this? How do we have to think? In what way do we need to relate to each other that would be called spiritual love in such a way that this spiritual force would be evoked and really help us in our situation? Well, the good news is that real love, spiritual love, can only exist when there is hatred. Love has to make a bridge above the two opposites. Love has to have the medium of hatred before it can be felt in any way, before it has any work to do. Hatred, and meaning separation and opposition, is the medium through which the force, like the force of electricity, the force of love, can be experienced. We don't experience electricity directly. We feel its action. And unless there's something for it to work on and work against, you don't feel that there's force there. Right? We've spoken about this before. But the matter in which love can operate on its ultimate level is above hatred. It's got to have disconnection in order to evoke the supreme force of connection. Try to imagine a situation where you have the ability to maintain a connection in which you are looking for the well-being of a person or a group of people that you hate. Meaning you don't want anything to do with them. You want them to be wrong. You want your position and the things that you think are very important to dominate. You want to eradicate that opposition. Whether it's in society, whether it's in family, whether it's a personal thing, whether it's in, where you work, you hate. Meaning that there is a profound disconnection there. You feel as though you're polar opposites. Now imagine the ability to maintain a connection, not on the level where the difference is, not where the disconnection is, but at another place where you're not considering how this is going to affect you, but the only thing you care about is that the connection should be there. This is going to be in a place that doesn't have any of that opposition in it. It's going to be at a point at which you actually are connected with that person. And that means that there is actually nothing in nature that needs to be eradicated. And everything in nature really has a right to exist. It's supposed to be there. Why? Because it's intended to get us to experience love not in our nature for our own well-being and focused on what's good for us or what might be dangerous to us, but on what's good for everything. Because that is the connective force. Think about it. What else would hold everything together but a feeling that wants to make sure that everything that exists serves its proper purpose, fulfills itself in the way that it should according to how it was made? Are you thinking about that? Because if you really are, then all of these other things are coming up, aren't they? I don't want to be a doormat. Other people will take advantage of me. That's too dangerous. We actually don't have anything in common. I'm afraid to speak to these people. I'm afraid to look for that point of connection. That's an indication of the difference between something that is actually true, that there is such a place as that within us and within our hearts and in everyone, that it's possible to reach. But we don't reach it by using our regular nature and our regular definition of love. This is work. And the only place where this sort of supreme primordial force of connection can happen is in situations like that. And we have plenty of those situations right now. So that means we're primed for it. There's this beautiful article from a little book called Shemati, a Kabbalistic article called Prophet of the Land. I'll read you a little quote here. It's known that nothing appears in its true form only through its opposite. as far as light excelleth darkness. And this means that everything points to another, and by the opposite of something, the existence of its opposite can be perceived. And for us, everything first appears in its negative form. Everything good first appears in our experience as its opposite form. And the degree of opposition tells you something about the coming good. So love is this force that connects everything. And this is the thing that we need to get to. Everything means despite whatever its nature is. It's very lofty, it's what we need, and it seems that it's impossible, but it's not impossible. It's just not on the two-dimensional level of human nature. It's not on the mechanical level. And we can learn to function above that level. And that means that in order to discover the spiritual nature, the nature of the Creator, the nature of the light, we do that by exposing our own nature. We do it by exposing what we call the revelation of evil or hatred. It's not a bad thing. It's a functional thing. It's a good thing because of what it leads to. We don't learn about spirituality directly. We learn it by revealing what the limitations of our nature is, and by learning to function above that. So that's it for this Wednesday, but I would really love to do a show where I can just answer a lot of questions that you may have. So any kind of question that you have about spirituality, about Kabbalah, about life problems, things that you're curious about, the deep questions that you have, put them in the comments, and I'll do a whole show just taking all of your questions and trying to answer them all. That should be fun. And if you think that this is fun, in fact, then please like, share, comment, and subscribe.